Kalia with Pandora's Box. And today the topic of our conversation is co-parenting with a narcissist. I get this question a lot. How do you co-parent with a narcissist? Or people come to me for counseling. I need help learning how to co-parent with a narcissist. Now this is difficult because there really isn't a particular recipe on how to co-parent with a narcissist, because co-parenting suggests cooperation, and there really isn't cooperation with a narcissist, especially when you're at the end of the relationship. The relationship is over and it becomes more of a win-lose situation where the narcissist is out to win in order to recover any self-esteem damage that might have happened to him, any narcissistic injury that might have happened to that narcissist during the ending of the relationship. So there's a win-lose dynamic going on where the narcissist needs to win at all costs. So that's the game that they're playing. And when it comes to children, the winning is about the loyalty from the children, that their end game is to get the loyalty from the children. It's not about what's the best for the children, because that's not the way narcissists are wired. They're not able to really think about what's best for anyone but themselves. So it's what's best for me that is important to them. And what's best for them in their own self-interest is the loyalty of the children. And so that's what they're working towards, where you might be working towards, I hope, you are working for what's in the best interest of the children's needs, taking their well-being into consideration. That's not at all what's happening with the narcissist. So you can only cooperate with somebody when you have the same goal. And for co-parenting, the same goal is the best interest of the children. With co-parenting with a narcissist, it's just simply not possible. And this is really sad, because I know a lot of you are in this situation and you don't want to hear that. You want to hear that I've got the recipe, the perfect scenario for you in how you can co-parent with a narcissist. Really, this is about what you need to do for yourself and for your children to survive the narcissist, to survive this co-parenting situation. Because the courts will not take narcissism into consideration, and of course most narcissists that we're dealing with aren't diagnosed. There's no record of it. You just see this really crazy making narcissistic behavior. So you're able to say, hey, I've got this narcissistic ex that is making life really difficult for me and the kids. So the thing that you have to do is you have to be the one to provide that stable foundation, that loving home for those children. Even if they're away 50% of the time, they need to know that they have a stable home. They have somebody that cares about them deeply, somebody that listens to them, somebody that creates a very loving, nurturing environment, so that they're getting their needs met somewhere, because they aren't going to get their needs met from that narcissistic parent. That narcissistic parent is about getting his or her needs met through the children. It's completely backwards. And I know a lot of you have had that in your own upbringing, where you were catering to the needs of your parents instead of the other way around, the way that it should be, where your parents are taking care of your needs. So you've got to take this into account when working with a so-called co-parenting situation with the narcissist. You have to basically do all the work. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. You've got to be the one that is carrying the extra weight. You're not going to get that support. You're not going to get that help that you need. And there really can't be any flexibility. So one of the things that I tell my clients is that, get your parenting plan, your legal document that says This is when the kids are going to you. This is when the kids are going to them. And then you have to stick to it. You can't vary. And a lot of people want to have that flexibility. Well, the kids have something going on this day, so maybe we could trade for this day. And that becomes a really big mess when you play that game with a narcissist, because they use anything that you want from them or that the children want from them as a method to control and to manipulate and to exercise power. And that's not going to work. So the best thing for you to do is stick to the parenting plan to a T. So if it's been decided that that narcissistic person's going to pick up the kids at 7 o'clock on Friday, then 7 o'clock on Friday, you have to stick to that. And if the kids have something going on, you're going to have that narcissistic parent take care of that. Like if they have school activities or something, that parent's going to have to get involved in those activities. And I mean, if they don't, then we're probably going to have to consider going back to court, because that's the only way you can get anything established with a narcissist, is through a court order where they know if they refuse to do what the court has ordered, that they risk going to jail. And they know that. They have this ability to go, okay, if I don't show up, either I'm going to go to jail or I'm going to lose my privileges, which doesn't play into that end game of loyalty from the children. So they'll do what they need to do to risk or to not risk going to jail, or to not risk losing their privileges. So sticking to the parenting plan is the way you are going to have the most sanity. And that's what's really important, is your sanity. Because the more sane that you feel, the more the children are going to feel that stability that comes from your sanity. If you're in a crazy place and life is really chaotic for you because of what the narcissist in your life is doing, that is going to spill over onto the kids. Kids are very sensitive. They pick stuff like that up. So your goal needs to be stabilizing yourself and getting yourself to a really good place where you can give this nurturing and stability and this stable home to your children. Now, I know when it comes to child support and such, a lot of mothers, and I work primarily with women and mothers, so this is where my information comes from, is I've worked with so many mothers of narcissistic fathers, and they're trying to survive this. They're trying to work through this arrangement with that narcissist playing all these games. The games don't stop at the end of the relationship, and sometimes they just begin. You know, you haven't seen anything yet until the end of the relationship. And so it's going to be very important for you to take care of yourself, to do everything you can to take care of yourself. And one of the ways that you have to take care of yourself is to really take a step back and disconnect from that narcissist. And I know this takes work, but you have to, that has to be your goal, is to take a step back to where you're not involved in that drama. Let that narcissistic parent be as dramatic and chaotic as they want to be, but you have to stay centered. You have to stay stable. You can't buy in. So say, for example, that the narcissistic parent is supposed to come at 7 o'clock on Friday to pick up the kids, and they are consistently late. And because this is your time for yourself, say you have a class at 7:30, and you consistently have to miss your class because that narcissist comes whenever he dang well pleases and doesn't have any concern for your plans. Your plans don't matter. The kids' plans don't matter. So if in a case like that, you have to allow a certain amount of time, like let's say a half hour. And of course, I wouldn't make a class for 7:30. I'd make a class for 8 or something like that. But so that you can wait that half hour. Wait a half hour. if that narcissist doesn't show up within a half hour to pick up the kids, you pack up the kids in the car and you leave. And then when he finally gets around to showing up, or she finally gets around to showing up, there's nobody home. Of course, you're going to get angry text messages. You're going to get angry messages. Where are you? It's my time with the kids. And you simply respond by 7 o'clock is your pickup time. I couldn't wait anymore. I had plans. I had to bring the kids with me. We'll have to try again next week. And, I know you've got to speak to your lawyer about the legalities of this and let your lawyer know that he failed to show. And you document it. You always have to document it so you have that documented evidence. And when pickup time is at 7 and that person fails to show at 7, 7:05, 7:15, and it starts to stretch out on a regular basis, that narcissistic person will be very consistent about not showing on time because they're getting away with it, because you're not doing anything. But if you're consistently not there a half hour after pickup time, then they might have to change their tune if they want to have their visitation. And of course, they're gonna cry wolf. They're gonna talk about taking you back to court because you're denying them visitation. And denying the other parent visitation is grounds for, being reprimanded by the court or even being jailed. So you have to watch it, of course. It's not that you would leave at the time of the pickup. You give sufficient time. Now, because laws are different in every state, I would check this out with your attorney and say if he doesn't show up by a half hour later and he hasn't informed me that he's running late or this is a consistent thing, then can I leave? Can I leave with the kids if I've got something going on? So you do have to check this out and make sure that you're covering your tracks. One thing I know is you do have to document. You have to document everything. So it's all there in case you have to go back to court. And unfortunately, I know a lot of mothers want to avoid court. Court's expensive. Attorneys are expensive. I understand that. But the thing is that you have to establish the ground rules up front. Because if you're too lenient up front, then as you know, the narcissist will take, and keep pushing the envelope and keep doing whatever works for that narcissist without consideration for you or for those kids, because those kids are waiting for their father too. A lot of the kids don't really want to go to the narcissistic parent's house, but a lot of them do. They want that attention. They want the love of that other parent. And it's very upsetting and disturbing for them when they're a father or a mother. It's usually the father in my case that I'm working with. So when that father doesn't show up, it's very disturbing for the kids. And it might be disturbing for the kids too if you say, I'm so sorry that your father didn't come on time, but we're going to have to go. And, have some kind of plan somewhere that you're going to go. And also, if that parent, say, has the kids through till Sunday, or they're supposed to drop the kids off Monday morning at school or whatever the situation is, and they still want to get the kids even though they were late, it's up to you if you want to say, well, we'll try again tomorrow. If you can pick them up by 9 o'clock in the morning, then you can pick them up then. And this inconveniences the narcissist, and of course narcissists hate to be inconvenienced, but you have to show your power. And sometimes in the relationship, you don't show your power. When you're in that relationship, you feel powerless. You feel that you have to do whatever that narcissistic person wants, or there's hell to pay. But you're in a different position now, and you have to recognize that. Because a lot of my clients that I work with, that control spills over after the divorce when there is a co-parenting situation with a narcissist where they continue to want to maintain control, and they will do anything to maintain control. That's another one of their end games, is to be in control. So you've got to show them that they don't have that power anymore. They don't have that control anymore. That there are rules, there are ground rules, there are visitation hours, and if they fail to show up for their time, then they lose it. And once again, check with your attorney to make sure it's not going to cause a lot of problems. You may have to extend it to an hour. Find out what you can do. Because if that person is consistently an hour or two late for pickup, then, your evening your plans have to be canceled. And that's not right either. So you have to have some way to deal with this. There might have to be mediation too, and I know that mediation is the less expensive way to resolve issues. Narcissists aren't really all that good in mediation. Sometimes they're okay because they want this third party to think that they're awesome and cooperative and all that, so they're going to put their best foot forward. So that is, really important just to get everything documented and to get the support where you need to. You also need to get support for yourself and your own healing. So when I talk about you needing to be a stable force for these children, you've got to get the help. And I know it's expensive to go to counseling, to get the therapy, but it's worth it. It really is. It's an investment for you to help to get stabilized for your children so you can be that stable force, and also for you to get the courage and the strength that you need to stand up to that narcissistic person who you may have never learned to stand up to, who may have always had control over you. So now is the time, now that the relationship is over, whether you ended it or whether that person ended it, it doesn't matter. This is the time for you to take your power back, for you to take control of your own life back. Now, let's talk about what happens with the manipulation of the children when it comes to narcissists. As I said before, narcissists are all about getting the loyalty of the children. They both need to be in control and have the loyalty of the children. And to get the loyalty of the children, it means to turn them against you. And they work towards that. So where the regular rules of co-parenting after divorces don't bring the kids into the mess of your divorce or your split up or the issues that you have with each other, narcissists will not follow that rule. They see this as an opportunity. So they will not hesitate to talk about everything that you have done wrong and all the things you've done to hurt them. They will play the victim and get the sympathy of the kids. And this happens quite often. In fact, I've seen cases of parental alienation where the narcissistic parent completely turns the kids against the other parent because they're constantly getting the loyalty through your mother's doing this and your mother's doing that, and she did this to me and she did that to me. So the kids end up feeling the vulnerability of that narcissistic parent and feel an alignment with them and a need to protect them or take care of them. And oftentimes there's something already set up where they're more hungry for the attention of the narcissistic parent because they never really got it. And it's not often the attention we are getting that we crave, it's the attention that we're not getting. So you may give a lot of attention to your children and give a lot of love and approval to your children, and you think I'm doing all the right things, whereas that narcissistic parent isn't giving that attention. So the children crave the attention from the one that's not getting it. So there's a deficit set up in them. And when the narcissist confides in these children about their woes and everything that's going on with them and everything you're doing to them, they will sometimes, this is not always the case, but they will sometimes align with that narcissistic parent against you. That's a very difficult thing to deal with. But one thing you have to keep in mind is you still have a certain amount of custody, whether it's 50%, whether it's more, whether it's less, it doesn't matter. Make the time with your kids count. Talk to them. Tell them the truth, because we often do play by the rules, so we don't want to talk about it. But in a case like this, you have to, because their little heads are getting filled with a bunch of stuff, that's not good, that's not healthy. So, a lot of people ask me, well, should I tell my children that their father or mother is a narcissist or a borderline or whatever? And most of the rules of psychology would say no, but I say absolutely, under the right circumstances, you need to. So, they need to have this information. Family secrets are a cause of a lot of dysfunction. And when we look at adults with alcoholism, drug addiction, and a lot of other problems, they've got family secrets at the core. So you don't want to have these family secrets. You want to be out in the open and upfront with your children and communicate with them. You have to find a way to communicate with them that's not necessarily dissing the narcissistic parent, but just saying, I realize that he's blaming me, but he has some issues, and you can let them know about it and say, this is the personality disorder, and this is what people with personality disorders do. And, I still love that person, but I can't live with these things, which is why we got divorced. And you can give your children tools to deal with the manipulation and the control and things like that. Otherwise, they're completely at the mercy of that narcissistic parent, and that narcissistic parent doesn't play by the rules. They are very manipulative and controlling with the children. And so, if the children feel that they can speak to you without an agenda, without you sharing all your frustrations and anger and injustices with the kids, just be very calm and speak the truth without an agenda. Because kids can sense agendas too, oftentimes. They know when you're angry and they don't want to see your anger, so they won't talk to you about anything for fear that they're going to set you off. Like oftentimes when there's a new partner introduced into the narcissist life, which happens quite frequently, usually before the ink is dry, that's difficult for the children because they have to adjust to this other parent, and they have this thing about having their primary parent being replaced and such. So oftentimes in the case of the non-narcissistic parent that I work with, there's a lot of anger and rage and injustice and jealousy and a lot of feelings about the new source of supply, as we call it. And so when the kids come home and start talking about this new girlfriend or new wife or whoever she is, you can have some real strong feelings about that, and those kids are going to pick up on those feelings. And then they aren't going to talk to you about anything anymore because they don't want to set you off. So it's important for you, even if you have feelings, talk those feelings out with a therapist or a good friend. Do not let your children see how you feel about that, as far as your jealousy, your fears, your anger, your frustration, because they need a safe place at home. They need that place where they can talk about what's going on for them. So it is your duty to provide this safe, comfortable environment where they can feel free to talk about whatever they want. And yes, I know it's hard. It's really hard when your kids come home, especially if they are excited about this new girlfriend and what they're all doing together. That's going to be really hard for you. But for the sake of providing that stable base for these kids, you've got to really work at staying centered and grounded and balanced in yourself and not share your fears, frustrations, jealousy, or anger with the kids. Now, their other parent will not hesitate to share these things. So, they may not feel really comfortable with that other parent. They may feel more comfortable with you at home because the other parent's always talking negatively about you, and they may not like that. They may not like to hear that. It can work both ways. Either they can gain the loyalty, or the kids get angry because they feel loyalty towards their mom or towards the other parent that actually shows them that love and approval. So it can swing both ways. It really just depends on the situation. But you don't really want to take chances. You still want to be that stable, loving home for the children. Another thing that happens is narcissists will spoil the kids. They'll give them whatever they want financially. And you may be just barely getting by because you might have been the stay-at-home mom that depended on your husband for finances. And when he leaves, he takes all the finances with him, and then you get awarded a small amount of money. And he has all the money still and will buy the children, will buy their loyalty by giving them everything that they want. And it's important that you not play that game, that you don't go into debt to buy the kids whatever they want. It's never in the best interest of children to give them whatever they ask for. You've got to show them how they can earn it, how they can prioritize what they want, so that you're actually giving them a foundation to be able to go out into the world once they turn 18, where everything isn't just automatically handed to them. So you may appear to be, the bad parent, because the narcissist plays good parent, bad parent, where he likes to see himself in that good parent role and cast you in the bad parent role. And when you're the one saying no, it can even feel like you are being cast into that bad parent role. No, you can't have whatever you want. But children also respond to boundaries. So even though kids like to have everything that they want, they love it when they can manipulate a parent or get whatever they want, there's a part of them that often knows that's not in their best interest. They need those limits. They need those boundaries in order to feel safe. So if a parent is always saying, yes, 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 do whatever you want, go wherever you want, they have oftentimes a feeling of a lack of safety, because that parent isn't setting limits for them. So once again, you are providing that safe, stable foundation. You're not going to cave and try to give the kids whatever they want. Now, of course, you're going to give them what they need, and this is priority. You make sure that they have healthy food. You make sure that they have clothes. You make sure you're in a clean and functional home. It doesn't have to be large. And, make sure that they're in a good school and that they're being taken care of. That's what's important. All the toys and the iPhones and the, computer games and everything like that, not a priority. Actually, sitting down at a dinner table and having a conversation is worth far more than all the stuff. And what I've heard in my practice a lot is that oftentimes these children will go to the narcissistic parent's house and feel ignored, feel like that narcissistic parent really isn't giving them quality attention. They give them stuff like computers and video games and all kinds of stuff. And so the kids can occupy themselves while that narcissistic parent does something self-serving or spends time with a new source of supply. And so that quality time is really important to these kids. So I know it's important to have a sit-down dinner together without cell phones or computers at the dinner table, and have time that you just spend together talking. And when you do things, it's more important to go places. There's a lot of places you can go that don't cost money, like to parks or beaches or whatever, where you can just go spend time together, quality time. And that's what the most important thing is to spend that quality time together. Now, communication. This is another question I get. How do I communicate? Because often the narcissist will use that communication avenue that you've kept open because of the children, in which you would not have kept open if there weren't children involved. You would have the ability to go completely no contact. With children involved, you can't go no contact, but you can go no energy. And this is a practice to learn how to not give energy to that narcissistic person. And you do this by basically sticking to the parenting plan, pick up and drop off conversation only. Period. That's it. Any conversation outside of this does not need to be engaged in, because that narcissistic parent will often use this communication avenue, whether it's text message or email, to diss you, to find fault with you, to blame you for what's going on with the kids. And that keeps the wound alive for you, and you don't need this. Now, there are a lot of my clients that use a email system. I think it's through the courts. I'm not really familiar with what it is because I've never had to use it, but I probably need to find out so I can give you this information. But according to your state and what's available, there's often this email system where the emails go into a system of communication and then get forwarded to you, so that there's a record of these emails, and that what that does is it stops abusive emails from coming in. The emails need to just be based on matters concerning the children. So what I recommend, if you don't have a system like that, is that you keep records of any emails like that. You keep records of email correspondence. You keep records of even saying, you know, I need to leave by 7:15, so please be here by that time. And if they don't, you know, that after you leave with the kids, you've got a record asking them to be there on time. And so, you know, these are the reasons to keep records. Also, you can let that narcissist know under no uncertain terms that if there is any blaming or abusive language, that email or text will not be responded to. So then they're not getting the answer, because they could say, I need to pick up the kids at 7:30 instead of 7, and you're a horrible parent and you're this and that. If anything like that goes on, you don't even respond. And you let them know, I will not respond to abusive language. And that way, if they actually want you to make a change, like them coming at 7:30 instead of 7, they're going to have to be kind about it. They can't use that email to diss you and find fault with you. And any dissing or finding fault is not responded to, period. You keep a record of it so that you can show the courts if it's necessary, but you do not respond to it. You don't need to weed through abuse to find the message. That's not necessary. You just have to teach them how to treat you at this point by letting them know that any abusive messages will not be responded to. Also, a lot of parents ask me about things like illness, doctor visits, and other things that normally is part of co-parenting. You let that other parent know, hey, little Johnny's sick. I'm taking him to the doctor. He hasn't been feeling good. This is really difficult because it's another opportunity for that narcissist to find fault with you. Well, you're not taking good care of him. You're not feeding him right. You're not, So oftentimes, even though the court might ask for you to inform that other parent of anything going on, just keep it clean. Just say, I'm taking Johnny to the doctor at 2 o'clock on Thursday, and just leave it. Don't say why. You don't have to give any information. And, they might come back and ask why, but you could even let them know, just a checkup. We're just having a checkup, and they probably don't want to bother with it or be involved. Now, if there it really is an illness, you're going to have to discuss it with them, a serious illness. And oftentimes a kid might have a flu or something and need to stay home because they're vomiting and have a high fever and they have visitation. And you can't be transporting them when they're sick like this. So at times like this, then you have to inform that parent that, little Johnny's really sick with the flu and he's vomiting, and he can't leave being near a bathroom, and I'm sure you don't want him vomiting in your car, so I'm going to keep him home. And on those cases, you do need to vary from the parenting plan, because it's not good for the child to take them out of their safe environment when they're really sick. And you have to consider what's best for the children. And so you document, that child is sick, and keep them home. And at that time, you can maybe offer another time, offer some flexibility, just to, appease that parent. So that's another situation. Another common situation is the cancellation of visitation from the narcissistic parent. Some narcissistic parents are very aloof about their involvement with the kids. They're kind of run hot and cold, and they often will cancel or not show up. And that's really hard for the kids, because the kids take that as that parent doesn't love me or doesn't care about me. And the sad truth is, oftentimes that's true, that narcissistic parent isn't capable of truly loving their children or caring about what's in the best interest of their children. And them canceling their visitation because they have a hot date really sends a message to those kids. And, that narcissistic parent doesn't care about what effect that might have on his kids to keep canceling on them. The narcissistic parent only thinks about, wow, I have this opportunity to have this hot date and I don't want my kids to get in the way of that. And so, they do what's best for them or what's priority for them. So you may find yourself in situations where you have to really have some deep conversations with your kids about how they're feeling about things like this, because this is also a common problem. Now, with narcissists, if you watched my 5 types of narcissism video, there are different types of narcissists, and narcissism and personality disorders can vary in severity. There are some narcissistic parents that are on more the mild spectrum that can do fine with co-parenting. They do make their children important. They do show up on time. There may be other issues that you're having with that parent, but I've heard, quite a few of my clients say, well, no, he's a good dad. He does show up for the kids. He does seem to really care about the kids and love the kids. That's a bonus. That's great. That's absolutely great. You may have your personal issues with that parent, but remember, the kids are what's important. And if you have a narcissistic parent of your children that actually does show up, that actually does seem to care about the kids, that's positive. That's a good thing. So you won't have a lot of these problems. You still have to draw limits and boundaries and things like that, but their visitation is important to them, so they will do what they need to do to get their time with the kids. I think I covered most of the highlights. If there's anything else that I didn't cover that is bothering you, even in-person visits sometimes may be a bother for people, because they have to see that person and they may feel that their energy drops. Say, keep the conversation minimal, if having any at all. You don't have to look them in the eye, wear sunglasses, just keep your energy out of it and do what needs to be done. And you're going to get through it a lot easier. It's never easy to co-parent with a narcissist. It's a difficult road, and there can be a lot of challenges. So you just have to be strong in yourself, and that has to be your end game, is to be as strong as you can be so that you can offer these kids the love and the stability that they need. So if you have any other questions, please comment below, and I will do my best to read the questions and answer them for you to the best of my ability. If you need support in this, please contact narcissismfree.com, and you can read more there. You can get a hold of me. You can book counseling sessions there. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.